Hi, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Independent Science News. So my name is Jonathan Latham and I've decided this week to do another book review. So the book that I want to review is this one, Toxic Sludge is Good for You. So it's another book that I'm suggesting which is predates before 2000. So it's an old book, but you know, it's one of the most comprehensive and interesting and concise discussions of the use of science as propaganda. So what it does is it looks at the public relations industry and how they use scientific research or even commission scientific research to influence public opinion in such a way as to accept their products. And the original title actually comes from a story. So I know that I've now become friends with the author of this book, so John Stauber. He was, at the time he wrote this book, was the CEO of the Center for Media and Democracy, which is a non-profit based in Madison, Wisconsin. And so essentially the title of this book comes from the fact that they were investigating sewage sludge, and they got a phone call from the sewage sludge from the public relations company that was basically trying to sell sewage sludge as a consumer product and to farmers. And when they'd heard that they were researching sewage sludge, they phoned up and said, you know, we hear that you're writing a book and it may defame sewage sludge. And it turned out that they knew nothing about this, but they decided that seeing as somebody was taking so much interest in sewage sludge as to actually take the trouble to phone them up and try to persuade them that sewage sludge was actually good for you, that they would investigate the subject of sewage sludge, and that became one of the important chapters of this book, and a big research focus actually of the Center for Media and Democracy, and because basically sewage sludge, for people who don't know, is basically all the toxic remnants of sewage that essentially don't dissolve and are non-biodegradable, that end up being put on farmland. So these are things like heavy metals, pharmaceuticals, pesticides, flame retardants, so on and so forth, a total toxic brew of stuff that gets put on the fields. But the whole success of the sewage sludge industry and the public relations industry is to sell this stuff as fertilizer, right? So it's a perfect example of how science is used to pursue public relations stories, right? So science is being used because the public really understands science to be, or believes science to be, the most reputable source of information, right? And because it's the most reputable source of information, it's also the one that's most prized by the public relations industry for convincing people to do one thing and not another. And so this book, this Toxic Sludge is Good for You, is a account of how in the 1980s and 1990s the public relations and science came together to sway the public opinion about all kinds of environmental issues to do with Earth Day and so on and so forth, and basically turn around the whole public perception of the environment from the idea that the government and industry were poisoning the environment to the idea that you know, maybe things weren't so bad, and Rachel Carson kind of overdid it a little bit, and how we don't need to worry about all these things, and together with the you know, the invention of the EPA, which settled a lot of people's nerves on these issues, how the environment became tamed as an issue, as a threat to the government and to the chemical industry, for example. And so this is a tremendously well documented book that goes into many of the stories that are you know, essentially ongoing today, but in many ways are finished because the industry has won the battle. You know, industry is spreading sewage sludge all over the country, and using these techniques, you know, they've greenwashed the chemical industry and so on and so forth. And so this is just a great recounting of all these of the relationship between science and public relations.